There's scenes here at Perry Park.
Chris Lynn has taken the wild thing and sent him.
Oh, Bateman! Wow! Yes!
Welcome to episode 40 of the Beyond the Sidelines podcast, and we're on film again. So once again, you get to see our beautiful faces. Joining me, Campbell and Finn. Boys, how are you today?
Good, mate. I'm good, mate. I mean, the whole reason why I'm here, and this is quoted from Finn, is to drive people to Spotify. You know, they're not going to want to look at these mugs.
That's actually not fair. You can't steal my joke. That was original comedy at its finest. Basically, because like I've said before a few weeks ago, Dad has told me since day one of my life, really, I have a face for radio.
Bobby's not a liar either.
He's not a liar. He's a very truthful man. He's a saint, really.
Just tells it how it is.
Straight talking man.
Exactly. And you've got to appreciate that, really. You've got to respect it. But now that we are on film, I've decided that I'm going to try and attract people to the Spotify platform so you can keep listening to our voices but not have to watch our faces. So you're welcome, Spotify. Invest.
Exactly. As Miley Cyrus said, you get the best of both worlds.
Jesus, you are grim, mate.
You betcha.
Anyway.
Big Miley fan, are you?
Oh, huge Miley fan.
I think we all are, in a way.
We all deep down. Everyone's...
She inspired a generation, being both Hannah Montana and Miley. It was
Have
like...
you ever seen
how
them in the
could she
same
live
room?
those two lives?
They're two polar opposites, mate. One... Actually, I don't know the story. I couldn't tell you.
In Black Mirror, so...
Exactly. She was good in that, actually. That's actually a good episode. Black Mirror is a very, very good series, by the way.
Show.
There's that one episode which I'm obsessed with, which is the interaction one, Bandersnatch.
Is that the one with...
I couldn't tell you the actors.
the interactive one. Yeah,
and it's the bloke and he's like creating a video game and you pick everything that happens.
Yeah, it's really
I remember playing it for like 3 hours, playing it. Again, that's the word. Yeah, because it's really weird, some of the outcomes. And even you can do the same thing again and get a different outcome. It's really, it's weird. But quite frankly, that's not the weirdest thing I've ever seen. This week claimed that mantle. I was walking through Indooroopilly with Campbell. And we saw a gentleman really, eating a donut. Well, technically, it was a donut.
Did you call him a gentleman?
That was the joke, Gusman. Don't jump the gun. And basically, he was holding a donut box, and I was like, "Fair play, son. Enjoy your snack." But he had one donut on the base, and then a donut on top of that, and he was holding the donut, holding the box. And eating the donuts handless.
It was the weirdest. I remember both of us just
pausing, reflecting, reminiscing.
We were mid-conversation and went,
"Did that just happen?
What on God's green earth did I just witness?"
That's temptation for you. I mean, I've experienced it myself. You know, you're eating something, you got your hands full, and you're like, "Well,
no." But that's the thing, Gus. That's the thing. His hands weren't full. His hands were full of the box. Yeah. You know, he didn't have a phone in one hand or something. Both hands were on either side of the box, and he was honing in like a pig at the trough.
So he could have easily just taken one hand off and grabbed the donut.
So easily.
Gus, were you at Indro on Tuesday?
Yeah, looked a bit like you.
I can't even remember what I was doing on Tuesday.
There we go. So we can't confirm otherwise.
I've just lost track of time. It's just crazy.
Pretty much. But, it was the weirdest thing I've seen in a really long time. I remember audibly saying something that I'm not going to say here, but I was like, what?
Well said.
Well said. Hell is that?
Luckily, look, let's face it, that was a negative on our journey to Indooroopilly for the first time in a while, I might add, thanks to restrictions and whatnot. But our day got instantly better about 10 minutes later when Campbell decided to treat me to a Froco, or at least CJ, I thought it was a Froco.
Well, so I'm pretty sure all Macca's employees get taught this when they start is, someone ordered a frozen Coke. Oh, sorry, it's on defrost. Middle of the day. How is it possibly on defrost? Or a soft serve. Oh, sorry, we're not doing any soft serves at the moment. How on earth are these two machines never working? Anyway, frozen Coke wasn't working, but the frozen Fanta was. They didn't have Fanta flavored. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And then
what do you do?
Exactly. So I was like, all right, do you have grape? No, grape. What's going on here? And so I asked, what flavors do you have? She has lime, vanilla, a couple of other flavors. So I went, you know what? You know what's a good combo in a milkshake?
Tis good.
Lime and vanilla together. So we got them combined. And
we did.
Oh my God.
It's arguably the best thing I've ever tasted.
It was so good. I remember we were walking off and I had a little sip and I stopped dead in my tracks.
It did, actually. That's true. That's not just dramatic storytelling.
Hyperbole. That's not hyperbole.
That's 100% the truth. We are very dramatic people in everyday life. That's the reality.
Look,
how could you tell?
Now, I don't want to bag any McDonald's employees or any of those fast food employees because I know they get paid pretty much nothing. But is it really that hard to get my order right? Like, seriously,
No.
It wasn't. They had one person working a whole Macca's.
Exactly.
The last time,
criminal.
The last time I was at Hungry Jack's, I mean, I usually go to Hungry Jack's if I need a fix or a meal or something.
Classic.
Usually it's a stunner.
Can't go wrong.
Usually I'm missing one element of that stunner. Every single time I miss one element of it, whether it's the nuggets, whether my burger's the incorrect burger.
This has never happened to me, mate. People must not like you.
I must be unlucky because it's becoming a regular occurrence now. It's horrible.
I think it's a conspiracy, isn't it? It's a conspiracy against Gusman. The Hungry Jack's organisation.
Right. Seriously.
The Hungry Jack's organisation.
On to Be on the Sidelines podcast.
Come on.
And explain
Tell
to
me
us
why you can't get my meal right.
They always
one
get
thing,
right.
one job.
Exactly. It's utterly bizarre.
If you want to sponsor me,
sponsor you?
I'd be a great ambassador for your product. I would always do you right.
It's the Angry Angus right here. I'm the Angry Angus.
See, that's branding.
I'm fed up.
That's branding. Look, we might. I think we'll put it this way. The best way to put it is, it was definitely a week of mixed results. You know, it had its lows, but it definitely had its highs. But Gusman, lead us into it, pal. But the one bloke who isn't having Hungry Jack's and or McDonald's or the like on the regular is our guest this week.
Yeah, Rhyan Grant. Pretty good pull for this week. We've had a few great guests in the last
40
4 or 5
episodes,
weeks,
mate.
now.
Last 40 episodes.
40
episodes.
episodes.
Yeah,
how big's your ego, Gus?
True.
I think we've been pretty good.
It's refreshing to get an A-League star on the podcast. We haven't had much football talent on recently, so it's great that Rhyan Grant was able to join us this week from Sydney FC. Of course, second most capped Sydney FC player of all time, I believe. So big raps to him. He's been at the club for 11 years. You can have a listen to what he had to say to us right now. We are joined this week by Sydney FC and Socceroos representative and the owner of probably one of the best mullets in the A-League, Rhyan Grant. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, fellas.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I mean, you haven't got the typical footballer look to you. You got that beautiful mullet, but you also apparently you drive a 1984 Toyota Corona. Is there something about the 70s, the 80s that you like so much, mate?
Just stalking him, Gus.
Oh.
Not particularly. I think the mullet was it's sort of come back in, to be honest. It's not something that's too outrageous at the moment. And then with the car, I was honestly looking for a little run around, and then came across a 84 Corona in real good nick. So I thought it'd be a waste not to jump on that. So I know it sort of coincides with each other, but at the same time, it's sort of just how it happened. But yeah, I think a little bit old school about it.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. I've got to ask, what bet did you lose for the hair, mate?
No bet. It was sort of, I used to have a bit longer hair a couple of years ago and then was thinking about putting a mullet in just to be a little bit different and then ended up shaving it. But when I shaved it, I was like, yeah, when I get the length, I'll definitely make a mullet again. But yeah, no bet. It was just more of just trying to be outside the mould of a typical footballer, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And, there's a lot of mullets going around in Aussie sport. Who's got, other than yourself, who's got the best mullet, do you reckon? You reckon maybe Bailey Smith from the Western Bulldogs? There's a few going around. Who do you reckon's got the best one?
I think the AFL boys, they've got it down pat. There's a lot going around the AFL. But I think the original one that sort of I've always liked was Mikey Wright, the surfer.
Nice.
He's got a mean one. He's had it for a couple of years too, obviously a bit longer than me. So he's pretty gross, which makes it better.
Iconic is the word.
I mean, you're a big surfer yourself. What do you like about surfing, I guess?
I mean, I love to get out there. I'm far from a good surfer, but it's just I've always sort of, when I moved to Sydney, I'm originally from out near Bathurst, a place called Canowindra. But when I moved to Sydney, I've sort of always lived around the beaches. So as a bloke from the country, as soon as you get near the beach, you always want to give it a crack and have a swim. So wanted to make the most of that. So yeah, just naturally tried out surfing, and the more you do it, like anything, I suppose, the more you enjoy it. And I'm always trying to go for a swim anyway. So if you just take the board and try to get a few waves, and it's always good fun. So like I said, I'm far from good at it. There's a lot of better surfers out there, but it's just a thing that I like to do and sort of get away from things, and saltwater therapy, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting away from sports is always a positive thing. It's always something you kind of need to do to reset, I guess. Is there anything else that you do to kind of reset and get away from football and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, nothing particular, I suppose, where I do daily or weekly to make sure I'm always doing something, but I try to change it up. I'm a bit like everyone, I think, and probably you fellas are the same, love all sort of sports. So I love even just watching the footy, or whether it's AFL or rugby league, and doing that sort of stuff, or even go and play golf. I'm very ordinary at that, but I love having a hit.
Ball always ends up in the drink, you know?
Yeah, just to get another reason to get in the water.
Exactly.
No, just like little things. No, I haven't got particular hobbies. I try little things and go through different phases where I try and do different things, but I'm not very good at much, but I sort of have a dabble at everything.
Not very good at much, mate. You're a Socceroo. Just staying humble. Anyway, mate, during self-isolation quarantines, what we're all experiencing right now, what are you doing to pass the time? You mentioned those hobbies, but you can't do them at the moment.
Yeah, so I think the sort of blessing in disguise for me is at the moment for isolation is trying new things. And it's like you said, very limited when you're sort of in isolation indoors. So I've done a few different things. I ordered some clay and tried to make some pottery, I suppose.
Can you enact that scene from Ghost?
Yeah. I tried to convince my girlfriend to give it a crack, but she was having none of it. But yeah, we've been doing that. I mean, like everyone else, we've been doing puzzles. I've sort of been playing a little bit more PlayStation than I'm used to. What else have I been doing? I've got a few plants in my house. So I'm nearly killing them by watering them too much, because I just want to pot around a little bit and trying to keep busy. But yeah, I think other than that, I'm pretty much like everyone, just watching Netflix and trying to buy time as much as I can with different ball games and whatnot.
Yeah, mate. What are you watching on Netflix, mate? You mentioned Netflix there. What are you watching on Netflix? What's your favorite video game, even?
I'm not a big gamer. I honestly just play FIFA at the moment.
Yeah, good call.
With my housemates, or my old housemates, we used to play for bills, money, and whoever's going to cook that night or clean up. So it was always more of a competition thing rather than a gaming thing. And we're quite even at the time. So that was how I sort of play PlayStation. I'm not a big gamer, but and then with Netflix, I've been just watching, I think, what everyone else is. I think it's very hard because everyone's watching the same stuff because no one's got nothing to do. But
yeah,
I sort of like Ozark. I haven't got into the new season yet, but that's good. And I love a true crime, so all those true crime docos are pretty cool. But actually, something we started last night was, I think, Handmaid's Tale, but that's on SBS. That's on Stan. So
okay, yeah.
Shout out to Stan. That's not too bad actually. I got a couple episodes in and sort of hooked me.
Yeah, good. Bit of Tiger King maybe. You got the Joe Exotic look going.
I love Tiger King. I even had the mow into a sort of goatee a couple of weeks there after I watched that, just to have a bit of a laugh. But yeah, that was very interesting. Something that you couldn't even write something about that. It was that outrageous. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you mentioned FIFA, mate. When you're playing Ultimate Team and Career Mode and the likes, do you play as yourself much, or no? I guess, yeah. Do you play with yourself much on a Ultimate Team?
You can't ask
exactly. You can't ask that. As soon as I said it.
On FIFA, I tend to play a little bit as myself. No, not really. I sort of have definitely tried it. As soon as you sort of get on a video game, you're definitely going to do it. But I'm pretty cutthroat on FIFA. I don't really pick myself because I'm not up to the standards. So I try and stick to the better players. But I have signed myself on different occasions in career mode, but I don't really play Ultimate Team. I don't understand how it sort of works, but when it gets to career mode, I occasionally buy myself and let me sit on the bench and give
yourself a big salary, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, I'm pretty greedy on there. It's hard to stray me away from Sydney. Though I'm always asking for a bit too much, I think.
Well, no, like I saw in FIFA, I think they adapted the mullet into the game actually, onto your character. What does that look like in the game when you're playing with your character?
It looks a lot better on there than it does in real life, I reckon. It's actually very cool. I did not expect that. So when someone first made me aware of that, I had to get on there and check it out. But yeah, it looks very cool. I didn't think, as you know, a lot of the A-League players, they don't pay too much attention to the features and whatnot. But yeah, to be able to get on there and have your mullet on there was pretty cool. And it looks really good. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with it. Can't complain.
It has to be on there, mate. Absolutely iconic. Now, you mentioned the A-League proper, the season, an abrupt end to the season. You guys well on top. No champion as of yet. The FFA, they've gone a bit silent. But do you think Sydney FC should be the 2019 champions?
It's a tough one. I mean, mathematically, I think we could have been caught by Wellington. But at the same time, I think we would have had to lose every game and they would have had to win every game for that to be a possibility. So, yeah, I mean, you could never say it wouldn't have happened, but it was highly unlikely. So it's hard to sort of say. But I think if this season does get scrapped, I'd like to sort of consider ourselves the premiers, just because of how hard we've worked and how consistent we were throughout the year. It would be nice to be topped off and crowned premiers. But at the same time, I could sort of understand the arguments of the other teams if that wasn't to be the case. But, I mean, if we're going to be greedy and want as much trophies, we've got to take them when we can. So I'd definitely ask for it.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys were really dominant. And Sydney, you've been quite dominant over your career too. I mean, you've been in a few A-League finals. I think you've won 2 or 3. What's it like to hoist the toilet seat at the end of the season?
Best trophy in sport.
Yeah, definitely the best trophy. It's always a good talking thing. But, no, it's very cool. It's, like you said, it's a pretty iconic trophy. So to be able to lift that up and be champions is something special. And been lucky enough to do it a couple of times. And just last year, I think, everyone sort of had a chance to hold it up to our fans over there in Perth, and everyone did something a little bit different. And I think I was rolling it along the ground at one stage to one of the other boys just to have a laugh, and people putting their heads through it and whatnot. So it's pretty cool to be able to do it, and everyone has a good laugh when they get their chance to hold it up.
Well, I mean, what about that 2017 A-League Grand Final? You scored the equalising goal, and then you boys went on to win it in penalties. What was that like as a day, as an experience?
Yeah, I think that's probably my favourite day as a footballer. I mean, take away international stuff and Socceroos, just purely in sort of circumstance and situation and clubland. That was the best. I think, like I said, I've won a few, but that one, like you mentioned, I did score, which is always special. I don't score too many, so to be able to score one in a grand final and it be pretty crucial was really cool. And then I think the drama of it going to extra time and then obviously to penalties, and for the player of the year, Ninko, to step up and score the winner. I think it just was sort of fairy tale finish. And as cliche as that sounds, it was just, sometimes in sport it works out perfectly. And I think that was one of those days, and we definitely made the most of it after, and had a good long week of having a good time with the boys and having a bit of a party.
Yeah, mate, celebrating as you should. Now, because you've done it all in Australia, have you ever been tempted throughout your career to maybe go abroad, or is Sydney FC well and truly, well, you're a one-club man? Is that what you want your career to be?
I think it's a question I get asked a little bit. It's not necessarily up to me, really, to be able to say, oh, listen, I want to go overseas and just make it happen. It's sort of, things have to align and whatnot, and there has to be, obviously, firstly, has to be offers from overseas, and there has been a little bit of interest in the past, but nothing concrete. So it's not that I'm against going over, but at the same time, I'm not going out of my way and knocking doors down to try and make it happen. I'm pretty content here in Sydney, and love it here. And it's obviously, I've been at Sydney FC for 11 years, so it's very much home and feel very comfortable. But yeah, if something was to come up, I'll definitely have to have a good look at it and suss it out. But at the same time, like I said, I'm really happy here, and definitely wouldn't see myself in another team in Australia. That's for sure.
Well, you mentioned you've been in Sydney for 11 years. What's your favourite part about Sydney FC as a club?
That's a great question. I think the culture, and I think that if you speak to any sportsman or any successful teams, I think culture's always the biggest thing. We've had a good culture now at Sydney for a long, long time, and I think that goes a long way, and if not, is the most important thing to why we've been so successful. And I mean, especially in that 2017 season when we won it, we were all very, very close, and just not just teammates that you come in and see every day and have a laugh. It was good mates. We were literally 10 deep wherever we went, whether we were just getting a coffee or playing cards down at the cafe or something. There was always a huge number of us, and I think that was why we were so good. And I think that's, like I said, hugely important. And then even to last year, some of my best mates have been in all of life, have come from the last couple of years as a Sydney FC player. So you meet some really good players, and then when they all sort of gels, it just creates something special.
Yeah, and when a season gels, you end up hopefully winning at the end of the season, and then you get that fabled Monday, the old Mad Monday. Bit of a different one this year, but I think the whole nation will probably have a Mad Monday at the end of this one. What's your best, I guess, Mad Monday experience, or best, I guess, outfit you've seen someone wear or you've worn at one?
Oh, we've had some crazy ones. Usually we do a Christmas party, which is our biggest dress up. Our Mad Monday
cool.
is usually like a theme, not so much a dress up. So a couple of years ago we had the double denim theme, and we actually went out and mingled with the public, and we were all in double denim, which is quite acceptable, so it wasn't too bad. But a Christmas party dress ups are pretty crazy. I can't even tell you. I went as Chucky this year, which was fun. But we've had Yoda. I think we've had some crazy ones. I think Costa this year went as Pikachu with the big. He couldn't even get any food or drink into his mouth because the costume was too big, and so off the top of my head, I can't really think of them, but I do know that there's been a lot of good times and some classic dress ups.
Yeah, well, you mentioned some great players there, mate. Who's the best player you've played alongside at the Sky Blues?
It's hard to go past Del Piero. I think everyone sort of says, he was past it and whatnot, but I think he was 38, 39, still banged in, I think, 15 goals or something a year. It was pretty crazy, and just watching him train and seeing what he was all about was freakish. And he definitely is probably, even though, like I said, he was a bit older and a bit past it, he was still the best player I've probably played with. But other than that, I can't go past Broski either. Even when I was a young fella and I was going to the Sydney FC games as a fan, I loved Broski, and then getting to meet him and then become mates and see what he's been able to do, not only for Sydney but in his career overseas and even Australia. I think he's very underrated, what he could do and what he was about. So, and he's a legend of a fella. I don't know if you've ever spoke to him or whatnot, but he's a top guy and a really good mate. So I think him and Del Piero.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Del Piero, mate. He was there when it was peak A-League. Like, the A-League was the best it has ever been. I think we had the A-League All-Stars. Juventus came down. It was absolutely great from a fan's point of view. But since, unfortunately, the A-League, it's taken a bit of a dip. And just for you, as a player, from a player's perspective, what does the A-League need to really, re-interest fans and get back to the glory days?
That's a very tough question. I'm not sure. I'm the same as you. You sort of think we need to get more crowds, a bit more attention to it, but I don't know the answer to it, to be honest. I always joke about with friends that obviously when cricket was in a bit of a lull, they created the Big Bash, which made it a lot fun and brought people that wouldn't watch cricket into cricket. But I don't know if there's an equivalent to soccer, but I mean, it's definitely not realistic, but it'd be funny if you could do maybe a 5-side tournament.
Like a futsal tournament, yeah.
I mean, I would be horrendous at that because I need a bit of bigger pitch to be able to run everywhere. But, I'm not sure. I honestly don't know the answer to it. And now with all this sort of situation of COVID, it's even more complicated, I suppose. So it's I honestly couldn't answer it, but hopefully, obviously football's still massive in Australia and is still doing quite well. We can't be too negative about it, but I think some things need to sort of happen to sort of kick us on a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And a big talking point from the A-League this season has been, stadium sizes. And we've spoken a lot about it on the podcast here about how we would prefer, so we're in Brisbane, we'd prefer Brisbane Roar to play at a smaller stadium rather than Suncorp because it just looks empty the whole game, basically. What do you think about that? Do you prefer playing in, a bigger stadium, or would you prefer to play in somewhere with a little bit more atmosphere, like a smaller stadium, I guess?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think when you play Brizzy, I know they're not really in their heyday at the minute, so they're not getting the bigger crowds like they may have in the past. But Suncorp is an unreal stadium and it's huge, but like you said, they're far from filling it. So it takes away the atmosphere, which also takes a little bit away from the quality of the game. I know when you're in a big packed stadium and everything's buzzing, you're obviously really up for it, and I think the quality improves a huge amount. But then, when you're in a small stadium and it's packed, it's just as fun, like our situation at Sydney where Allianz has been knocked down and is being rebuilt. We've been playing at littler stadiums, little boutique stadiums, and I love it. I love playing at Leichhardt. I love playing at Jubilee. You get closer to the fans. You obviously sell more. Oh, you don't sell more seats, but it feels like it's a packed crowd every week. But then at the same time, at Allianz, we have a great stadium there. And then when that's packed, there's not much better. So it's a tough one. During the year, you'd think you stick it to the smaller stadiums where you can, sort of pack them out and get a good atmosphere and whatnot. But then obviously when the time is right and the bigger occasions, it's great to have a big stadium, chock-a-block.
We talk about big occasions, mate. Doesn't get much bigger than playing for your country. What was it like to run out for the Socceroos, and I guess how nervous were you leading up to it?
I wasn't. I was obviously very nervous. It's obviously a huge honour, first and foremost, to represent your country in any sport. But to get the chance to play for Australia, something I've always wanted to do, was obviously a massive honour and very, very cool. But I was nervous, but I was quite lucky. I didn't find out I was starting till the morning of. So I thought if I was to know a few days out, I probably would have had no fingernails left and would have been pretty wigging out a bit. But to only have maybe a couple hours beforehand to find out was probably a blessing in disguise, and sort of just made me think, you got to get on with it. And then so I wasn't too nervous after that. Once you get out there, I think everyone says the same thing. Once you're out there, you sort of just get on with it and play. But it was obviously a massive honour and very, very cool.
Well, how much of an impact has Graham Arnold had on your career from, starting with Sydney FC to now playing with the Socceroos? What has he done to promote your career, I guess?
Yeah, I think Arnie's been huge for me personally. Obviously, he was massive for Sydney. He's done very well wherever he's been. So as soon as he came to Sydney, we knew we were in for something special. And when he first came in, I'd been sort of playing a lot of different positions as I did for Sydney for a number of years. And he sort of said to me, I see you as a right back. If you want to play right back and give it a good crack at the position's yours. So as soon as he said that to me, I knuckled down on trying to be the best right back I could. And I think once I was concentrated on a certain position and knew that I was the coach had confidence in me to be in that position, which was Arnie, I think, it really pushed me on. And obviously over the last few years, it's sort of come to fruition that right back was suited for me. And sort of ended up being a pretty decisive moment in my career. And then obviously for the Socceroos, him knowing me and knowing what I'm all about, and then me also knowing what he's all about, made the transition for me to play for Australia a little bit less nerve-wracking, I suppose. And just I think having confidence in you as a player is the biggest thing and goes a long way. So I definitely feel I've got that from Arnie, and it's made a big difference on my career.
Well, is your sight set on the World Cup now in 2022? Do you think is that your dream now for the Socceroos side of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to stick around and continue to be in contention all the way up to the World Cup. A lot of things happen pretty quick in football, and you never know what's around the corner. So I'm just happy to be part of it, whether I'm just part of the squad or sitting on the bench or playing or starting. I'm just happy to be in there because you never know how many times you'll get the chance to represent your country. So I'm just happy to be there, and if that ends up being me being around for the World Cup, then that'll be just the cherry on the top, I suppose. So, I mean, obviously it's a goal, but at the same time, I'm just taking it any game at a time to make sure I enjoy playing for Australia while I can.
Yeah, sweet as. And, you know, part of getting back to where you want to be for the Socceroos and stuff is playing club football and whatnot. Obviously, we've had an abrupt end of the season. What are you kind of doing in this, I guess, extended off-season kind of period to stay fit and ready and keep your skills up?
Yeah, I'm obviously still kicking the ball around as much as I can, going on different runs. We've got a program that our strength and conditioning coach has sent out to us, and we've got GPS units to track us and make sure we're getting stuff done. Initially, for the first couple of weeks, I sort of just put my feet up and was like, we don't really get a lot of time off to sort of relax. So I sort of was happy to relax, but that didn't last too long. I sort of got itchy feet and wanted to get back out and do something. Being stuck inside wasn't always the best. So, yeah, been kicking the footy, the soccer ball. I take the footy, the NRL ball and the AFL ball around too, just to have a bit of a kick. I've been playing a little bit of tennis. Just changing it up to try and stay motivated and try and stay as fit as I can. But yeah, like I said, we've got a program that I'm sort of following and trying to keep up with to make sure I'm in good enough nick if the season gets back up and going, or if we have to go back into training.
For sure. And how are you guys, I guess, at Sydney, how are you guys staying in touch, staying connected as a squad?
We've had a few Zoom calls. I think the Zoom is the biggest thing for everyone at the minute. Everyone's sort of catching up, whether it's trivia nights or even like these podcasts or talking to mates. I think, the Zoom's been a blessing for us, and we're no different. We've had a few Zoom meetings where we all catch up. We're obviously in a WhatsApp group where that's constantly people putting in silly stuff and trying to have a little bit of banter, but sort of keep everyone together. And I think continues the great culture that we have. And like that and the Zoom calls, we've spoke to obviously Stevie Coker on the phone a number of times. I've spoke to the physio. I think everyone's just wants to call people to have a chat and chat to someone different. So we're all keeping in contact, and it's been good. It's actually been very nice.
Well, thank you once again, Ryan, for coming on and having a chat with us. Hope to see you back on the footy field in the near future. Thanks, mate.
No worries. Thank you. Cheers.
And welcome back, boys. Well, that was extraordinary interview with
extraordinary.
Extraordinary. Yeah. Who's got out the thesaurus?
Yeah,
Check out the brains on Gus.
I've been learning some new words over this break. But yeah, Ryan Grant, outstanding. He was a great chat, and of course, Sydney FC are lucky to have him. And right back, he's been there 11 years, as he mentioned, and an absolute
as you've mentioned about 3 times now.
Yeah.
How long has he been there, Campbell?
I think about 10 years.
Yeah,
okay. Close enough.
Funny 11. Joke, Finn. Keep him coming.
Okay. No, he's a great player. Australia as a whole is blessed to have him, really. He personifies the Australian psyche and stereotype, really. So
he is an icon.
He is. And, I mean, he's a quality footballer, but I think the Socceroos need him just for that. Just to really, imagine him at the next World Cup.
Oh, it'd be so good. And he's got a look. It would go crazy. People would love him. He's got the spoiler on the back of the hair. I'm calling that. That's what his mullet is. It's more aerodynamic. Oh,
no, he's so good. Man, like, he doesn't need a jersey if he plays, because people would just be like, yeah, he's Australian.
Immediately. Australian, that bloke.
But he was great. But now that I'm thinking about it, I should have worn my Brisbane Roar polo.
Really?
Wow.
No?
Well,
okay.
I mean,
I
just trying to didn't quite land.
I think I do have a Brisbane Roar. Oh, no. It would have been Queensland
It's not a staff
Roar.
one, though.
You probably paid for it, though.
Yeah, it's my Queensland Raw.
I'm not going to do.
Yeah?
I'll do the motion off screen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I do. No, Ken, I'm just... Gussie, you keep baiting me. You did it last week with the World Cup, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try again, and you're absolutely... You're adding fuel to the fire, pal.
What do you mean? What am I doing?
Okay. No, I'm not going to go into it because I'm not bragging. Anyway, if we're speaking about Sydney FC, boys, they were well clear. I think when the season finished, they were 8 points clear of second place, but they had 3 games in hand. Now, that's dominance. But the question that I asked Ryan and the question I want to ask you two now is the season that's done. It doesn't look like it's coming back. The FFA have been very, very silent over the last few weeks. But should Sydney FC be the champions of the 2019-20 A-League season?
Yep. Ooh. Yes, 100%. They're ahead. I know, actually, I do remember saying that I don't think Liverpool should be champions, but that's because I don't like Liverpool. But I do think, and he mentioned that it's technically mathematically possible for Wellington to catch them, but
yeah, it is.
I think Sydney FC, the fact that they've got 5 rounds left, it's pretty much over. They've had it would have been 20, 25, 26 rounds.
Look,
I think that's enough to make it a season, and I think at least they should be given champions of the A-League.
Minor premiers, I'm going to have to, at least.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to have to butt in there, Gusman, because I think the thing that you're forgetting is the fact that in Australia, unlike most football competitions around the world, there is a final series.
Yeah, no.
So if you want to switch sports for a second, let's consider the AFLW with Fremantle. They went through the regular season in their conference undefeated and looked very much head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. Week 1 of finals, the season's half the rounds played, but the season's cut short. No champion. Because it's a final series and anything can happen in the finals. So how can you justify Sydney FC winning the league when, again, Doggies in 2016, mate, they came seventh to finish the regular season and they won the flag.
Yeah, maybe you give Sydney FC the minor premiership, so that's the championship. I think they're called the champions of the A-League, and then rather than premiers of the A-League.
No, yeah, because premiers is the minor premiers, champions is grand final winners.
Is it?
So,
okay, so I got it the wrong way
again,
around.
maybe you could go premiers, but I do want to actually consider, joking about them before, but considering the Brisbane Roar. Now, they are a team who in 2020 were undefeated at home.
They were a weird team.
They were absolutely incredible. I think, I'd have to fact check this, but I think they have the best or the second best 2020 record for total points. Now, they are a team who are very much on the up. And to be honest, I'm biased, but I think they would have come close to a top 4 position if the games were played out. Now, again, how can Sydney FC really go, okay, how can the FFA, go with 100% certainty Sydney FC would have beaten them, would have gone the whole way? See, it's such a difficult, impossible situation.
Yep.
But
could the Brisbane Roar catch Sydney FC before the end of the season?
No, but they could go into finals and play through the finals.
Let's disregard finals.
What's the point of having premiers if there's no champions?
Well, I guess the fact that you give them as premiers, that's at least one title that you can give them this season, because mathematically the Brisbane Roar can't catch them. Only Wellington can really catch them, but even then, I'm 99.9% sure Sydney FC would have been premiers, and I feel like it'd be fair to give them at least that title. For this season.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think minor premiers is fair. They were definitely the most dominant team across the track of the season.
Yeah.
Consistent. Yeah. I think they only lost 3 games or something. Was it like that? Something ridiculously low. And, they were just so strong.
2 games.
2 games? Okay.
2 games.
Well, I mean, and you talk about Wellington. They were pretty inconsistent at the start of the season. I think they lost maybe their first 2 or 3 games. We were joking about them basically being spooners from the start. Mm-hmm. You then have Brisbane, who were very average in 2019. But towards the end of 2019, they started pulling their form together. We said, I think jokingly, they need a striker for Christmas. And, Brad Inman comes in, starts performing.
It wasn't Inman, it was Scotty Mack. Actually, just a story on that.
Yeah.
Story on that, not flexing here, but I was there when Scotty Mack...
I know you were. You've told me this.
Have I? When he was recording his transfer announcement video. And I was like, I could text you guys right now and leak it. But I thought, greater public, I'll let you guys find out in due course.
You are the worst human being.
I'm literally just having a laugh, pal.
I know you are, but you're not very funny, so that's a bit hard for you.
Funny looking.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. Technically, I don't think the A-League season's technically over yet.
No.
And they have 5 rounds plus finals. So I believe technically the FFA is still considering that they might be able to squeeze the season in.
But I just don't see it happening.
There's always a possibility that we might actually see a little bit of A-League before this season's just cancelled.
Look, I think the A-League's only going to come back if they can complete it. That's the thing. They're not going to. They're not going to bring it back for a 2-week period.
There's only 5 rounds left.
There's 5 rounds and then finals.
Yeah, which is 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Again, in this situation, I think you could fairly go, okay, Sydney FC are the premiers. Sweet. But unless you can, with 100% certainty, complete the final series, there's no point bringing it back.
Could you play finals instead of those 5 rounds?
You could,
we
mate,
had a 20-odd game season.
But you've got to consider it's the top 6 who go to the finals, and I think it's Western United and Adelaide. They're equal on points in 6 and 7.
Well,
so
you go goal difference. That's the same as it always would be.
Yeah, but it's unfair in Adelaide, isn't it? Because they might have.
No, not really.
Well,
if they played the same amount of games, that's the same as if the season ended right now, they would, which it has. They would be in the same position, right? That happens where you don't make the top 6 because of goal difference.
Well, they could revolutionise the whole thing, and they could go, okay, Central Coast. There's 11 teams in the league. Mm-hmm. Central Coast Mariners have been by far the worst team in the league. Mm-hmm. So could you just do a 10-team knockout round type thing where maybe the first week the top 2 teams sit out, and then you just have knockouts?
I don't see that getting much. I don't see the top teams.
See the point.
Yeah.
But it's a way. It's a way to so first play 10th or whatever whatever. Like it's a way to assure that there is a champion.
Yeah,
that we might not get otherwise.
I don't see them revolutionising some new structure to the game. If they're going to bring this game back, they'll. I think they will probably bring back 5 rounds plus finals. I mean, that's what they're thinking. If they're bringing back finals, they'll probably bring back that 5 rounds as well, because why are you just going to bring back?
I don't know how long that's going to last. You could play 2 rounds or 3 rounds.
Yeah, I know,
and then you go, oh, we're called off again because cases have risen and we can't would you rather play 7 rounds, or say you're going to play 7 rounds and only end up playing 2 or 3? Or would you rather go, let's take that potential 2-week buffer that we might have, and go, let's just play the finals. Yeah, but they're not going to be played in front of people anyway, so it's who really cares?
What about the sides that are not quite in that top 6? What if they're just on the edge of...
That's exactly what I just mentioned, mate.
Yeah.
It's the same as any other season. What if they're not in the top 6 at the end of the season? What if they're not in the top 6 at the end of the season?
Yeah, but at least you're giving the opportunity for them to make it into that top 6 by giving them an extra few rounds.
Do you think people really care?
I think teams
is it
care.
Really?
Well, I think the teams will go, well, I don't think that's very fair if you're just going to cut the season now and play finals.
The season's been cut anyway. You'd rather have
there's always a
Premier.
possibility they can bring it back. That's the thing.
Yeah. Again, it's such an impossible situation, gents, that unfortunately we're not going to know the answer to. For a few weeks now, actually, restrictions are starting to lift. As of midnight tonight, we are releasing this on Friday, which is exciting. I think in WA, not that we'll have anyone listening over there, or it's unlikely.
Mate,
we could be, but I think they're now allowing groups of 10 to meet up. But of course, here in Brisbane, I think you can start going, picnics, long drives, 50 kilometres. So it's exciting. We're working towards a bit of normality, but unfortunately, sport, I think, is very low down the pecking order. And the one sport that is making moves to come back, as we've talked about quite a lot over the last few weeks, is rugby league. But the week that was quite a bad one for rugby league. Latrell Mitchell and Josh Addo-Carr meeting at, was it Latrell's land in Taree, I think, and Nathan Cleary apparently posing for photos with girls because they were waiting for an Uber. They were only there for 10 minutes. And then after apologizing to the media, TikToks came out the next day that was showing that wasn't the case.
That's so rubbish.
Gusman, look, we're not going to have a big heated debate here because we both, well, all three of us, I think there's a very clear split on rugby league, should it come back and whatnot. So we're not going to go down that route. But Gusman, I will say this, like the week that was, can rugby league players be trusted for the league to return? Can you say that league players have been following protocol where it's safe enough for the league to return?
I don't think anyone can say that they've completely 100% followed every single
Josh
protocol.
Adokar, he was driving hundreds of kilometres to go see Latrell and Tyree.
That's understandable. And I think what they've done is completely wrong, and they've possibly jeopardized the start of the NRL season or the restart of the NRL season. I think Latrell, I think Josh Adokar especially, I think they were stupid. Cleary was a little bit different. I mean, also quite stupid. He had people turn up to his house. I mean, he was technically doing the right thing until these people turned up.
He invited them. They didn't just rock up.
Made a mistake.
No, he would have invited them, and they rocked up. They didn't just go, oh, you know what? I want to go to Cleary's house and get pissed at his.
It is a lot worse than what Latrell and Josh Adokar were doing. They
think so as
went
well,
out. They traveled long distances to go camping with a bunch of mates, going out shooting, possibly without licenses.
Yeah.
And
which
riding
is
motorcycles, also possibly without licenses. So that's really not good, and it doesn't reflect well on the game. But I think it is also a good thing as well for the game, because it shows that
a good thing for the game.
How can this possibly be a good thing for the game?
No, I think this is an opportunity where all players in the NRL will go, okay, the way that these Latrell, Josh Adokar, and Nathan Cleary have been plastered all over the media, the way that, the fines that they've gotten, $50,000 fines.
They have gotten a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's not a big fine, but I mean, it's
no, but it's a time for the NRL to. No, but it's a time for the NRL to say, hey, we're not a joke and we don't take these issues lightly.
Well, I 100% agree with that. No, look, the thing that annoys me the most isn't the fines per se, it's the suspensions. Now, echoing what Campbell said, Gusman, just a second, please. Mate, I'm talking. Just as Campbell was saying, it was the time for the NRL to really grow a pair in a way and show that they're a competition who means business and that they weren't just going to roll over and go, okay, let's just get the season started. That we're going to show that, we can be sensible about the situation because we actually care about how players are following policy at the moment. COVID-19 and the restrictions that have followed have been the most significant and important policies introduced in Australia in recent history. And the fact that those players breached it knowingly and then only got 1 game suspensions is an absolute joke. No, it is straight up laughable by the NRL.
I agree. I agree that
no
the
guts.
suspension
No
should have
guts.
been longer. I agree that the suspension should have been longer. I think it should have been at least a month suspension.
But they don't want to. Do you know why? Because Adokar, Latrell, and Cleary, they're three of New South Wales, if not Australia's rugby league playing pool, aren't they? They are some of Australia's biggest rugby league players. And what? Think of the loss in viewership if Adokar's not running down the wing for the Storm, or if Latrell's not starting in the 1 jersey for the Bunnies and so on. It's weak. It's weak by the NRL, the fact that they didn't want to suspend these players for a sensible duration. The fact that Nathan Cleary went to the media, knowingly lied about breaking this policy and then got caught out. If he's not scrubbed out for a season, then the NRL is gutless. I'm serious, straight up gutless.
Really?
Straight up gutless. Straight up gutless.
I do not think a season out of the game is worthy of the crime that he committed.
I think a 5-game suspension.
The government's fine for that crime is $1,000. It's $1,000 fine.
The deputy minister,
they paid 50 times that fine. They paid 50 times that fine. 50 grand. Imagine 50 grand coming out of your pocket. That is a big financial hit. I know they're
not earning as much as
I know they've got plenty of cash to burn, but 50 grand's a big fine. I think the suspension should have been longer. I think that's why they got it wrong. But it still sends a message to other players that this is not the thing you need to be doing when the season restarts. This is not what you need to do.
That's bollocks. This isn't what sets...
No, and this isn't what the NRL have introduced a 48-page biosecurity document that they've given out to all the governments, all the different clubs about the rules that they've got in place when the season resumes. And these rules will be strictly followed by all the players.
How can you confirm that with what we've seen now?
Well,
we've seen that the players clearly can't be trusted with this.
I mean, firstly, the season hasn't started yet.
Doesn't matter.
But secondly, when the season does start, they'll be under bigger restrictions than they are now. That's what I'm saying.
How can you be sure that they will follow them?
Yeah, I guarantee that they'll follow that. Guarantee.
I don't know
it.
how
After
you
what's
say that
happened to
with
these,
conscience.
after what's happened to these 4, I guarantee it.
Now, look, I think this isn't the wake-up call that rugby league needed. And if it was, then the sport really does have to have a deep, hard look at itself and really wonder why it's taken this much time and it's taken these incidents for the rugby league world to wake up in the wake of the coronavirus. Anyway, gents, let's move on from rugby league. What else were we talking about? What else is on the agenda? MJ, The Last Dance. Now, that's a great series. That's a series of documentaries that have been released on Netflix at the moment. I've watched it up until episode 4 because I think that's all that's out at the moment. Gusman, you're watching it as well. Are you up to date as well?
Yeah, I'm up to date. Episode 4. I wish there were more out. It's a great show, isn't it? It's amazing. I think the whole thing is a camera crew's been following around of course, that outstanding
the dynasty
of the 80s, 90s, late 80s, 90s. It's just an outstanding documentary and it shows how good Michael Jordan is. Holy moly, that
he's an absolute freak of nature, but also his supporting crew, of course, Scottie Pippen was absolutely incredible. He was the second best player in the NBA at the time, but yet he was the 122nd ranked for salary in the NBA.
Yeah.
And of course, as you can expect, there were pay disputes and arguments that followed, and ultimately brought the end of that Bulls dynasty, I guess. But then you got Rodman. He's an absolute freak of nature.
Yeah.
And freaky hair too. Do you know much about Dennis Rodman? What he does now?
Well, he's Kim's best mate, isn't he?
Best mate.
He's best mates with Kim Jong.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fascinating. But they spent about half of an episode, I think it was episode 3, on Dennis Rodman, and it's absolutely fascinating, but also quite sad when he's talking about why he felt the need to act out. It's similar to, I'd say, Ben Cousins, in that he kind of felt trapped, didn't he, Gus? He kind of felt that as an athlete, he wasn't paid for what he did on the floor. He was paid for the media and the attention and the pressure that comes along with being an NBA superstar. So we decided to do things such as dyeing his hair and dressing up and wedding dresses and the likes to kind of remind himself that he does have that type of freedom and that type of thing. But absolutely fascinating. So I can't plug it enough. The Last Dance on Netflix. Episodes come out weekly.
Yeah.
It's up to episode 4 at the moment. Seriously, if you don't have to be a basketball fan. Straight up. It is absolutely grabbing, and it's one of those things where you just can't put it down. You can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Like a good book, but as a what are we, Gen Z? As someone who's
I think we are.
No, I think as someone who's 20, I'll put it that way. People say, it's a really good book. I can't put it down. It's not like that type of thing. But for people our age, I think this is much more appropriate. Netflix can't put that show down. So give it a watch.
I just want to mention Scottie Pippen's story because it was quite inspirational. I loved it because he was in a family of how many? It was like 12 or something. It was a massive family. His dad had a stroke and was put into a wheelchair. And then his brother also injured himself, was in a wheelchair as well. So he had 2 people in his family in a wheelchair. When he started playing in the NBA, the reason why he signed on to, it was an $18 million contract, I believe, at the time, but it was for about 7 or 8 years. And he signed on to that contract because he said he needed the money because it just in case he got injured. In a year or 2 and he wasn't able to pay for his family. And I thought that was amazing, and I think Scottie Pippen was probably the most underrated player in NBA history.
How much NBA do you watch, Gus?
I don't
watch a lot.
I don't think he's underrated at all.
I think
he is somewhat.
He played second fiddle to Michael Jordan's
because it's Michael bloody Jordan.
Exactly.
Not many people can. No one can beat
Jordan's
that.
the guy who had all the accolades, didn't he? Scottie Pippen was.
He was a great supporting cast.
You see how poorly they performed without him in the side. So
that is true. I think the most fascinating thing about this documentary, though, is the rivalry with the Detroit Pistons at the time, which featured Dennis Rodman as well, which I didn't know going into it. But that was absolutely incredible. For a team to play that physical as a basketball team is absolutely fascinating. So, again, give this a watch. We won't keep rambling on about it because we don't want to spoil it. And let's face it, we are just armchair experts, if that, when it comes to all sports, including basketball. So I guess we can't really offer any new perspectives or anything. So, Gusman, over to you, pal.
Yeah, well, that was, once again, another great episode. Great interview with Rhyan Grant. And it was a great impact on how coronavirus is going to be impacting the A-League, what Rhyan Grant's thoughts are on the whole process, how he's going through it. It was great to touch on the MJ documentary because that was quite amazing, and I'm going to be watching it. When's the next episode out?
I'm gonna next week sometime, pal.
Next week, is it? Oh, can't
I imagine so.
Anyway, boys.
Actually, one thing I did want to ask Ryan that I forgot to is why his name is spelt that way.
I was going to ask that too, but I was like,
Again, jump on Google. Well, basically, his name's spelled Rhyan.
Yeah, you can see it in the title. So.
It's just one of those letters that just don't belong in a name. Like I always thought that, like growing up, if I ever have a daughter, I was going to name her Ruby with a silent G.
Yeah. How many times do I need to hear about this?
No. Gusman,
I've heard this.
I was going to name her Ruby with a silent G.
Yeah.
RUGBY. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
The people at home will appreciate that. That's free comedy. Normally, you have to pay for that. You have to pay for that, but I give that to you for free because I enjoy doing it, and that's why I do it.
I think you'll pay me to listen to that.
Honest to God, my ego is that big. I probably would.
I think we'll wrap it up there. If you want to check us out on Instagram or Facebook, Instagram @_Beyond the Sidelines _ Facebook @Beyond the Sidelines. We do these episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, so you can check them out there. Chuck them on in the car. Is there anything else you boys want to add before we finish for today?
I'm just missing sport, mate. Just missing sport. This is the closest thing we can get to that at the moment, which is a bit of a shame, really. Because, I just hope League doesn't dominate the headlines next week. Because personally, I just want something new to talk about next week. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you once again for joining us. See you next time.